Welcome everybody to Back in Toons. I'm your host Michael, and my co-host, the most badass, toughest, roughest. I got nothing. I don't know. The uncanny Jacob.
What's going on, bub?
I had something in my mind. You ever have something like practice in your mind, and then when it comes time to say it, you're just like, bleh.
Oh,
It just like poops out of your brain.
Just shoot me and stab me. I'm stupid. I've embarrassed myself.
All right, everybody. This episode is actually a long time in the waiting. We tried to do this actually last year. This is during a time when Jacob wasn't available as readily as he is now, and I was gonna host the Back in Tunes with a friend of mine, and we were gonna talk X-Men. And like 5 minutes before we started to go live, he was like, we don't need to talk about the cartoon. We don't need the theme song. Let's just talk about X-Men comics for an hour and a half. I was like, okay, whatever. And it was actually a big hit, but I've been itching to talk about this cartoon, and we're finally here. We're discussing the classic 1992 series, and we'll also be discussing the short-lived but actually quite good Silver Surfer series.
Oh, yeah, honestly, Silver Surfer does deserve his own movie, but just as long as it's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because there's already way too many characters as it is. Same with adding the Fantastic Four.
I get the feeling that they're going to go in a completely different direction with the Marvel Universe first. I think they're going to split it. With Guardians of the Galaxy taking off, you have your own other section. You have the Earth Marvel Universe, and then you have the Space Marvel Universe. You can have Guardians of the Galaxy, you can have the Inhumans, Nova, and you can also have Silver Surfer.
Right, but if you brought in the Fantastic Four, that would like push back some of the B characters who do deserve some spotlight.
Right.
And which is why Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer should only stick together. But as far as Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers, those do tie in. They are part of the same universe.
They are, but at the same time, they're not requiring the two to be connected. You know what I mean? I was saying the Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers probably are not going to appear together unless it's at the very end of Avengers. But it's like the way Buffy and Angel yes, they're in the same universe, but at the same time, they have their own like little mini universes where they have their own mythology and characters and stuff like that. So they weren't intertwined.
Yeah. Right. No, that makes sense.
All right. So before we get too far into this, because what's that?
Okay, but now we're going to be talking about X-Men, which is its own universe because there's so many characters to look at.
Right, a crazy amount of characters. So we're going to start with the original episode. Well, technically there was a pilot before this, Kitty Pryde of the X-Men. I've actually seen it. It's okay. But for some reason that wasn't enough for someone to pick them up as a regular series. They tried again a couple years later, and this is where you see Night of the Sentinels. It's up on YouTube, and go ahead and hit play now.
All right. Now, I do want to know, the 1989 one, that one had Dazzler, didn't it?
Oh, God, I haven't seen it since I was like 15, dude. That's like 20 years plus ago. I don't know. I found a videotape of it for like, this is back when VHS tapes were, if it was $5, that's a good price. And they were selling the Pride of the X-Men in the mid-90s at like, when you go to outlet malls and they have that one toy store that has all the toys that are a couple years old? It was one of those places, like sitting in a bin.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, this is back when, like,
I will
say it was, this is where you'd find all those Waterworld toys that didn't sell, or other movies that didn't do very well, and they had, like, just racks of them. Leftover Dick Tracy toys from 6 years earlier. KB Toys, that was the name of it.
KB Toys, yes, I remember that. That's where I got a lot of my toys when I was a kid, man. That's where I got some of my Mega Man toys, G.I. Joe, Small Soldiers, and actually some Final Fantasy ones too. Okay, okay, that intro, where they all clash at the beginning?
Right.
I probably could have named all those X-Men because that's how much I watched the show.
Yeah,
and I'm glad they start with as far as the introduction goes, I'm glad they started with a character like Jubilee. Like, that made her, like, within the entire X-Men universe, like, a real central character. She's young, she's, like, a party age, she's moving around from house to house, and all of a sudden, her mutant powers just show up. And now from her perspective, it's like a brand new thing, and all of a sudden she's being hunted just for being a mutant.
Yeah. The waves of the X-Men, everybody came into the X-Men during a certain chunk of the team. There's the original group, the core five, and then you have the second run with Wolverine where they went all international. Wolverine,
Iceman, Eagle.
yeah, Colossus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I came in before this run, like 1986 is when I first started reading X-Men. So it was, if I remember correctly, it was Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, I think Psylocke. Psylocke? I've never once said the name right.
Well,
You are cutting out very bad. This is the worst I think we've had.
Think of a mythological creature, man.
What's that?
I heard you. Yeah, I know. It's like just think of the Greek mythological beast.
Oh yeah, and then we had Longshot. Do you remember Longshot? He had the talent. His mutant power was luck.
Yes, I do.
And then they had the Mutant Massacre.
I know, he would never get hurt. He would just pretty much. Yeah, he was Mojo's like. Sorry.
I came in right as the Mutant Massacre was taking off, and the team changed suddenly. So it was weird. I started off with like maybe 8 issues with the old team, and then it completely changed, and like Angel was gone. Well, actually, he was part of the X Factor. The teams were all over the place because you had X Factor, you had the New Mutants, and then the X-Men. And then after Mutant Massacre, they had Excalibur, where 3 or 4 of the guys went over to that team. And this is when Marvel started, I would say this is probably their pinnacle. Their most popular is when they started introducing Jubilee. That era around, I would say, I'm trying to remember how it's spelled. Mutant Massacre was around issue 212, 213. Then they had 2 or 3 other events. It was around the time of the Extinction Agenda where Jubilee and all those guys started getting real popular. And that's when you saw X-Force. Do you remember X-Force?
All right. So
wait, no, I'm sorry. X-Force is not with Banshee. I had that wrong. That was, dude. During the '90s, there was so many teams. X-Force was when New Mutants changed over. Cable came in, and he took all those kids, and all of a sudden, everybody looked like they had like 400 pouches all over them, and they were supposed to be extremely tough. And that's when they introduced Deadpool. I think Cannonball was the leader of the team.
Yeah, Deadpool. He actually was like a reverse of Deathstroke. Because DC's Deathstroke was there first before Deadpool was.
Yeah. God, you remember, the funny thing is Deadpool took a very long time to take off, and I'm very excited that there's even a movie because a while there, the comic book was actually canceled, and people were just like, I guess that's the end. He's just going to show up in a side character now, and then out of nowhere, he just, boom, came back. Bigger than ever.
Oh, I think it's because Marvel was pissed off because Fox wouldn't sell them the rights.
Maybe. Fox and Marvel have a very disturbing relationship.
I know, but Marvel's being a bit of a bitch, though. When it comes to Deadpool, I mean, Deadpool looks like it's going to be great. It looks perfect.
Yeah.
He's breaking the fourth wall. He's talking to the camera. He's being his silly fucking self. You're hearing, the F-bomb drop constantly.
And there's gore. There's gore.
Oh yeah, and then there's the gore. Yeah, no, they got it right. They actually listen to the fans. They're giving us a Deadpool we want to see.
All right. So with this cartoon, it's funny. I didn't even know this, that the original cartoon, the pilot episode was from a company called ACOM, and they turned it in late, and it had tons and tons of errors, and they refused to fix them, which is ridiculous. If a company pays you, it is your responsibility to deliver the product correctly, and if you cannot, you eat the cost.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's probably what's going on. That's probably what happened with the Fantastic Four franchise.
Yeah, it's just bizarre because they even aired it. I guess probably because they had a contract with Fox that required them to air it at a certain time. But yeah, if that company had done that to something as important as X-Men, which at the time was selling 1 million copies a month, and I would have been like, you're screwed. We'll hire someone better than you.
Damn, that was pretty brutal. Okay, I do want to say something about Rogue in this cartoon.
Yeah.
I mean, she actually has the powers of Miss Marvel. You find that out later in the season, and then look at Gambit, that old smoothie. You think that's how Channing Tatum's going to play him?
Yeah, of course he's not going to have that hair. I'm almost certain he won't have that hair. I don't think Channing Tatum's ever had long hair. But I think he'll have it.
Yeah, no. Well, in 21 Jump Street at the beginning when he's in high school, he had long hair.
Oh, right.
That's about it. But
Um,
no, honestly, okay, Fox has done great with the X-Men franchise.
right.
Maybe not X-Men Origins Wolverine.
No, no,
That
no,
pretty much
no. Let's
changed the
pretend that didn't even
continuity.
exist.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, it wasn't even R-rated. It wasn't bloody. I mean, they did better with the Wolverine, where it
Yeah.
took place in Japan. But I mean, as far as this last Wolverine movie goes, it needs to be an R-rated movie. It needs to have a nice big bloody ending.
It won't. It will not be R. There's no way in hell Fox will release Wolverine as R unless the budget is under 50 million. There has to be a certain level where the budget and the possibility of making beyond that amount is limited because you have the kids. I mean, if you look at any R-rated superhero movie, actually any comic book movie that's been R-rated has been difficult to even see $100 million.
Maybe, but we'll just. Well, I mean, heck, I'm pretty sure people will take their kids to Deadpool. They would not mind. I'm pretty sure they've been waiting around for a movie like that too.
That is going to be questionable at best. I'm not sure they're going to let kids go to that one. But parents, what's funny is when I was a kid,
Parents can take them with them.
yeah, you can, and all ever was required when I was a kid is that you just had a parent. But now it seems like society itself frowns on you. It's like, well, like certain movies are rated R, and I've never understood why the hell is Army of Darkness rated R? Why did I need to like cause some sort of like scam in order to get into an R-rated movie? It's ridiculous.
Right. Honestly, I mean, they also did a great job with some of the X-Men movies. Days of Futures Past saved that franchise and fixed all the continuity.
Yeah.
And now we're going to see X-Men Apocalypse. And of course, the only thing people are crying about is just the look of Apocalypse. I think, if anything, movie-wise, it translates better to him looking older than, all mechanic and whatnot.
Well, it's very hard to emote. They have a real actor in there, a good actor, and the fact that they wanted,
Oscar Isaac.
yeah, someone was showing a photo of a guy in cosplay who looked exactly like the comic book version of Apocalypse, but at the same time, you can't move your lips with that kind of costume. You can't emote, and you need a really good, flexible makeup in order to do that.
Yeah, I know. Or, I mean, you can't just simply cheaply paint the lines on.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just kind of take away from it. Plus, I mean, also, the way they kind of incorporate Magneto as one of the Four Horsemen does make a lot more sense if you think about it, considering
Yeah.
like where this character's going to and where he's coming from and how much depth they've given him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, and plus, honestly, this rendition of younger Magneto by Michael Fassbender, this makes you love Magneto even more.
Yeah, he's absolutely fascinating. Part of it's the actor himself, but it's also the fact that people know that he's a frustrating villain because I think the comics for the first like 150 issues he was a flat out villain, and things started to change, and he keeps going back and forth, and he's the most fascinating of all the villains because it's like he wants to be good, he doesn't understand what society, the regular world, understands to be good, and plus his anger is an
Yeah,
issue.
it is. I know. I mean, he was an Auschwitz survivor. He was a Auschwitz Nazi prison camp survivor.
Yeah.
He just because he was Jewish. He's Jewish too. That's it. He just got thrown in there just because he was Jewish. I mean, we all know the history of World War II and those internment camps.
Yeah.
It is, and also, yeah. No, plus, if the way you see his point of view, how he came up, it's like you were actually rooting for him near the end of First Class. He wanted him to destroy all those submarines.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cast here, and this is literally when the X-Men series got rebooted with Jim Lee, number one, and it sold the most. I think it's the number one selling comic book of all time as well. It was like 1.2 million copies in 1 month. This is the team they were using at the time, and I remember there being the Uncanny X-Men running at the same time, and they had the B team and the A team, and I remember the B team had like Bishop and oddball characters. I don't think Maggot was in there yet. Do you remember Maggot? He had like two
Not at
giant
all.
worms. It was a very strange character. But I'm looking at some of the stuff that some of the characters they used. So there's the main team, Gambit, Jubilee, Jean Grey, Professor X, Beast, Storm, Rogue, Wolverine, and Cyclops.
Cyclops.
But then you had
Cyclops.
you had the guys that popped in here and there. And honestly, I am an X-Men fan, but I'm a fan of the guys that aren't very popular. Iceman is my favorite, and Nightcrawler is a very, very close second. And for some reason, they don't get much love, especially not in the movies. But they have Angel.
Oh, X-Men 2.
Well, X-Men 2 is fascinating. And the fact that they dumped Nightcrawler for X-Men 3 is the biggest mistake they ever made. and I'm really glad to see they're bringing him back in the new movie.
Exactly. I know they're bringing back the actual first cast of X Men. You're bringing in Jean Grey, Storm. Storm actually starts out as a Horseman of Apocalypse, from what you
Yeah,
can tell in the trailer. But
and
she
she
did
has the
have an
mohawk.
upbringing.
She has the mohawk, which I'm very happy with.
I know she had that look in the '80s. Well, right here in the cartoon, she always had like wild hair. This is what my mom wished about because she actually watched this cartoon with me on the mornings
Yeah.
whenever it was on. She wishes, like in the movie, that Halle Berry had like this wild white hair like she did in the comics. That's what kind of bugged her. I'm like, gosh, you sound like a fanboy, mom.
My friend Joey, he actually has a tattoo of that version of Storm, the early 90s Storm, on his shoulder.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So these are the characters that showed up in the cartoon. Angel, which I really enjoy Angel, but I think a lot of people saw him as boring, so they rebooted him as Archangel. I can't remember. Did he
Because
shoot?
he became a horseman.
Yeah, didn't he shoot blades, like little blades, out of his wings? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, he did. He shoot missiles and blades out of his wings when he became a horseman.
Yeah. Avalanche, who was actually part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Oh, by the way, you mentioned earlier Rogue and getting her powers from Miss Marvel. Now, I found myself at a hobby shop in 1988, and I wasn't really reading comics, but I was stuck there. I was waiting for someone to come and pick me up. I went to a movie, and I ended up at the hobby shop, and it's mostly, hobby shops are all like the cars and stuff like that, but he had a small pile of comics that he was selling for 50 cents a piece. And I'm fishing through there, whatever, and I find Avengers Annual number 10, and the cover was absolutely fascinating, and I can't remember who the artist is, but it's one of those, I really enjoyed the art of the late 70s, early 80s. The detail was very, very heavy and wasn't stylized. It just tried to be as realistic as possible. And
Right.
this is the annual they introduced Rogue. Rogue, I kid you not, yes, she was with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and they did some damage, but she ended up getting, she already had Miss Marvel's powers, but then she got Thor's powers. And she's taking out the Avengers, and they take out her, and Mystique take out Iron Man. So basically, if I remember correctly, God, it's been so long since I read this. Basically the Beast, I want to say Scarlet Witch, and like a few other characters. There are basically 5 Avengers taking on the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and it's one of the most badass fights you've ever seen. It's one of the top 10 greatest comics I believe ever made.
Wow.
It is absolutely fascinating. It's really... I sold it. I was broke, and I found out it was worth like $75 at one point, and I sold it. Of course, it's probably not worth that anymore, but it paid the bills.
Got it.
All right, so the other characters that showed up, of course, we talked about Banshee earlier, and why can I not remember the name of the team that he ran? He had his own team, and they even had... Oh, Generation X. Generation X.
That's it. That's exactly what it was. Just think of the Billy Idol band.
Yeah, the movie was okay. It was like a pilot for Fox. It was okay. It wasn't great. My voice just cracked.
Well, evidently. I mean, if it didn't even go through.
Right. It aired on Fox once, and that was it. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, in this episode, they introduced Morph.
I love
has
Morph.
Pretty much the same powers as Mystique.
Yeah, Morph is different than he is in the comic. Morph was in the Age of Apocalypse. I actually walked away from X-Men for a couple years because it got so confusing that I gave up. But my friend Devon, he had a huge stack of comics in college, like a drawer filled with them, and I read all of the Age of Apocalypse and everything afterwards, and he is one of my favorite characters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought he was, too. And then, okay, I'm spoiling it. I mean, if for anybody who's not watched the first episode, then he died for a while in this one. And then he got brought back by Mr. Sinister, and then Morph comes back and just goes all crazy.
Yeah.
Helping him. And there was an episode where he took on the Sentinels and he turned into Omega Red, switching to all these, like, badass...
Oh, Omega
monsters.
Red. Wow. Do you know, there was a time when Omega Red was considered, like, the Venom of the X-Men universe. He was like the most awesome villain you ever knew, and then I don't even think they even use him anymore. I haven't seen him in forever.
No, gosh, I mean, he was briefly mentioned in the Wolverine's Revenge video game. Yeah. You didn't even get to fight him. He's that one villain that, within the plot, Wolverine forgot to take him on. Because he remembers Colossus telling him about some of the mutants that escaped from the from the maximum security prison area.
Yeah. There's
And
a
and then at
okay.
the end, okay, sorry, yeah, no, forgive me if I'm going on a little rant here,
No,
but
no, it's
this
fine.
is
I
what's
do it all the
happening.
time.
Like Wolverine, you beat Lady Deathstrike, the main villain of the game, and then he's like sleeping in his bed at the X Mansion, and he's like remembering what Colossus said, and then Omega Red's name is echoing in his head, and then he pops up awake, like, oh crap. uh,
There is a character in here that I don't think is very used anymore, but during my time reading X-Men, he became a very prominent character. Was Forge. He had like a cybernetic leg and hand and stuff like that. He had the mutant
yeah, he
ability
built
to
that
put
himself.
he could put together like technology, like weapons, whatever, just out of like basically nothing. He just collected all up in his mind, or I guess it was like telekinetic
He
power,
was
and
like
he
a
could.
technopath,
Yeah, what is it?
like a technologically advanced,
Yes,
like
thank you. Yeah, I don't think he's a character that's really used anymore. But I'm looking at this list, and there's a lot of great characters. They could have done 2 or 3 different cartoons with so many characters. I'd be
oh, I
interested.
know,
I would love to see a cartoon from the viewpoint of the League of Evil Mutants or Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Brotherhood,
Yeah, I think it'd be
exactly,
kind of
especially
cool.
Magneto's point of view.
But what if you had one of the X-Men undercover as one of the Brotherhood, and he was constantly reporting and undermining the plans to take over? It'd be kind of cool.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Something like that. Some kind of undercover spy perspective,
Yeah, there's
and
a.
it'd have to be a newbie.
It would. It would have to be someone that they didn't know, or some reason they would turn on them, something like that. I don't know.
Right. Something believable. But
There.
at the same, the whole. I think this is like one of the biggest and greatest things about X Men is the relationship between Professor X and Magneto. It was like the distinction and differences between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X before Malcolm X traveled to Mecca.
I think I've heard that somewhere before. I think that was actually written in the mag. Did you read that somewhere? Or did you come up with that yourself?
I didn't read it. I didn't even know about it yet. I mean, just
Oh,
the
okay.
way they were, and looking throughout history and observing, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Xavier's like equality, being in harmony with the humans, showing us not to be afraid to coexist. But Magneto, of course, being the skeptical one, and being right most of the time about how humanity is just like wants to dominate us. They're afraid of us. They'll want to kill us. He's like mutant superiority.
Oh, okay.
It's a downplay on pretty much show the humans that they're the ones in charge, and they will do what they can to defend themselves.
So this is the cartoon for Marvel, basically, that changed everything. They started using real storylines from the comics, and the mythology was really built up. This and Batman, the animated series, um, are groundbreaking. In the 90s, we demanded that they be closer to the comic, use the characters that we liked, and grab all the B and C and D characters, have them come in. I mean, Alpha Flight shows up in this for Pete's sake. Alpha Flight
Yeah,
is a
the
comic
Canadian
book
version.
that has always had like a cult following, but it hasn't been really successful since its initial run, and I feel like they're really underused. I would love to see Alpha Flight as a movie.
Well, no, it would be pretty cool. I think it might have some kind of takeoff, or at least a mini series showed up on Netflix like they are doing with Daredevil.
It would be expensive. It's really hard to get. Well, no, actually, now that I think about it, I guess the only expensive part would be Sasquatch, and maybe Wendigo, but not Wendigo.
Hmm.
Snowbird, and but you have Shaman, you have Puck, who should be easy to do. Vindicator should be easy. So yeah, you know what? If the Netflix starts getting some more money coming in, and those TV shows are successful, then Alpha Flight could be a miniseries.
Oh hell yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I know. I would actually probably want to watch that.
All
All I'm
right.
excited personally. Oh yeah, what can you tell me about the animation department? I mean, this animation does look familiar.
I believe part of it's Marvel Comics itself, but I thought it was Sunbow. Let me go back. I do want to mention that with the reboot of the whole Marvel universe, there is a comic book coming out called X-Men 92, which is story continuation of this cartoon. It's launching real soon. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
awesome.
Marvel. It's Marvel produced this. They designed it and everything. Yes, there's some other companies that did the production for them. There's Taiwan companies, Filipino company, Korean companies, but for the most part, it is Marvel Say, in how it's done and designed, and then Saban Entertainment distributed it.
Right. Yes. And then yeah, I was about to say yes. Saban Entertainment. They're the ones who were behind Power Rangers, and Shuki Levy, who did the music for this, also did the music for Power Rangers.
Yeah, I don't know the voice cast. I'm looking at this and I recognize a couple names. This must be a Canadian company that did the voice work because these are not the voices we always see show up in the cartoons we talk about. Amazingly,
Yeah.
this is the first cartoon in like months where we don't see the same. Good God, yeah, yeah. You know what? Jennifer Dale, she's a Canadian actress. Brett Halsey, Canadian. This has to be
Oh, Jennifer Hale.
Jennifer Dale. She's a Canadian actress.
Oh,
These are
Dale.
it must be voiced up in Canada. It's a lot cheaper to do it up there, I believe. Marie Steenway,
Possibly,
yeah,
yeah.
this has to be Canada.
I never heard of any of these voice actors. But they did bring to life and really personify the X-Men characters for me. I mean, if I were to watch any other version, those are the ones I always look to and compare them to.
Right. I mean, there's no Frank Welker, so obviously this is not here.
Good. All right.
All right, so
Yeah,
we're
that's
at
about
the
pretty much all
end
I can
of
say for
X-Men.
X-Men.
What?
That's pretty much all I can say for X-Men.
Yeah, you know what? I miss doing this show when we're in the same room because I feel like we didn't interrupt each other as much.
True.
All right, everybody, we're going to pause real quick, have Silver Surfer ready to go.
All right.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I think it's weird that I even bothered to say, hey, we're going to pause. We'll be right back because for the listener, there is no, it's like a half a second pause between them. So I'm probably going to have to stop saying it because it seems kind of stupid.
Right.
All right, Silver
Oh, got
Surfer.
it.
Here's the funny thing is I don't even remember this cartoon. I found it by accident. And I was like, what? I don't remember there ever being a cartoon. And it's really good.
Yeah, no, I remember watching this as a kid. Although I was upset because I found out there were no more episodes because it was no longer in production, which was a shame because it was awesome.
It's very mature. This feels like a jump. Like a 200% jump. Now, the cartoons that Marvel was putting out at the time were really good, but this is just amazing. This felt like it was for grown-ups.
Oh yeah, I know. Although I'm not sure if I know my mom and dad watched X-Men, with us when it was first out in '92.
Yeah.
But this, we were just like, kind of watch on our own when we had the time to. I mean, there were times where, we'd have to go to grandma's and we'd miss it, which was a shame. But, for kids, we'll live with it.
And the cool thing about the cartoon is the fact that it looks like Jack Kirby's artwork being put out there. There's other artists that were known for Silver Surfer. John Buscema was part of the big run where it ran for like 50 issues. It was amazing. Ron Lim is the guy I know that drew Silver Surfer, and I thought it would look more like that because he drew very muscular, very of the time kind of look. But no, they decided, let's go old school. Let's go Jack Kirby, which is much more... I'm not a huge Kirby fan, but this fits it perfectly.
Yeah, and he was also one of the co-creators of Fantastic Four. And that's actually where Silver Surfer first appeared.
Yeah. Some people swear by Kirby, and there's times I look at his art and I'm just like, the faces, man, the faces look weird, and the bodies are all stretched out and odd.
Oh, look.
But that's his style, and some people love it.
Indeed, and that was some early computer-generated imagery.
Yes,
And I love how
they combined both. The computer imagery, while it is early stages, it still looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, it does. I'm not gonna deny that. That's for sure. I want to say, okay, right here at the beginning, it does show the Kree and the Skrulls, which I think are becoming a huge part of the space Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
As we've seen in Guardians of the Galaxy, it heavily focused on the Kree, but I think it only briefly mentioned the Skrulls.
Yeah, this is already within a minute or two of this cartoon starting, they've already built this huge world, this intergalactic mythology, and that's exactly the right thing to do with this. Yes, you have to give the origin story, but you could have been lazy and just focused on Silver Surfer, and that was it.
Pretty much, yeah.
and now they're just creating the huge world and the relevance of Galactus, who I think wasn't he around like when the Big Bang first happened?
I don't know anything about Galactus. I know just Jack squat. Besides what I saw in the movie, uh, which is
Which was
completely
just
incorrect. He's a storm, and
there's
basically,
like this giant storm energy
yeah.
entity.
I didn't even read Silver Surfer in the beginning. The very first issue of Silver Surfer I ever picked up was, in fact, I believe, the very first gimmick comic book. It was issue 50. It was about the return of I'm having a brain fart. Who's the big bad villain? Infinity Gauntlet.
Thanos.
Thanos. Thank you. I'm an idiot. I almost said
I know
Darkseid. I'm like, no, Darkseid's their universe
that's
version.
DC.
Yeah. It was supposed to be the return of Thanos from the Great Beyond. He's supposed to be dead. And basically,
Mm.
they have a Silver Surfer in foil, embossed cover, whatever, coming at you. And I saw this at Walgreens on the spinner rack, and I was like, holy crap, I have to pick this up. And at the time, comic books were only $1. I think this was $1.75. And I was like, ooh, do I
Ooh.
really want to spend the extra? This is ridiculous that I was, oh my God,
Yeah.
75 more cents, but I got to get it. And that's the first time I ever read Silver Surfer. In fact, I think it's the first time I even ever saw him in anything.
Okay. Dang, that's cool to know. It's a great way to introduce him, and at least have it be that story.
Yeah. And then, of course, almost immediately after that, they, I think within like a year, they did the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries, which is still. Earlier I had said Avengers Annual Number 10 is in the top 10. The single greatest comic book I have ever read is Infinity Gauntlet number 4, and it's a jaw dropper. Everybody gets their asses handed to them by Thanos.
Yeah, I know. And does Odin finally have to show up and help out?
You know,
Isn't that what
it's
turns
been
the
a
tide?
while since I've seen it. This is what happens, I believe. So you get the best of what's left. Thanos decides to kill off, I think, half the universe or a third of the universe just for his own. He's trying to make Death notice him. He is in love with Death, the person, the Lady Death, and not Lady Death, the comic with the big boob lady, but just Death. And he decides his mission is to get the Infinity Gauntlet, get the gems, and take over the universe. And to get her attention, he kills off a third of the people just to please her. And the greatest superheroes that are left come to his little out in the middle of space world. He has it's just like a flat piece of something floating in space. And he
Right.
destroys them within minutes. I mean, it just takes a second. He turns Nova, I believe, into a pile of Rubik's Cubes or something like that, or just cubes. He turns Wolverine's bones, his adamantium, into sponge. I believe he smashes in Iron Man with his head in with a rock.
Oh God.
I mean, it's one of the most brutal, bloody. He destroys everyone and everything within moments. And Captain America is the last of the team, and he is standing there knowing that he's going to die, but he is not scared. He comes at him with just his shield. Thanos freezes his legs into the ground with these rock hands, and he can't
Mhm.
move. And Thanos goes to hit him. I believe just as Thanos is raising his hand, Captain America lifts his shield to protect himself, and that's when Silver Surfer sees the opportunity to get the gauntlet out of his hand. He flies in, and he sees the glimmer, the shining of the surfboard, and Thanos
Yeah.
moves his hand or whatever and loses the opportunity. And this is when the gods come in. I even think
Oh wow.
Galactus actually steps in. They convince him somehow to show up to try to defeat Thanos, and he hands their asses to them in issue 5. And I honestly cannot remember how it ends, but issue 6, I know somehow Adam Warlock comes back from the dead, and he gets the
Wow.
glove. He takes the gems apart and gives one to a person, trusted person, whatever, and they go out into the universe or whatever, away from each other, so you can never collect them up again. I got really
Damn.
excited there. Sorry.
I don't blame you. Okay. But also, I like how they introduced in this one the Watcher.
Yeah, he's a great character that not a lot of people know how to use properly. It's he comes in and out, and he's very interesting from the fact it's such a strange premise.
Right.
he can't get involved. No matter what, he can't get involved, or he violates the rules of the Watcher. But I believe that he actually did once get involved. It might have been during the Infinity Gauntlet, and he was punished severely for it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty what it is. But I mean, he's already interfering right now just by speaking to them, like warning them about Galactus.
This is
and
true.
it makes sense. And it also makes sense for Galactus to go after Thanos because Thanos is going to destroy everything. Galactus only harvests what he needs, so they can rebuild again.
Yeah, Silver Surfer's sacrifice is a really great one, and they play it to the right key on the cartoon. They could have played it down. They could have washed away a couple of the details to make it less tragic. The fact that he sacrifices himself, even though he has a wife, someone he loves more than anything else in the universe, but he knows the right thing is to sacrifice himself to take Galactus to other places where there are no living things. It's just, dead planets to harvest from that. And
instead of having to absorb and take actual human or some kind of organic life.
Yeah, and the fact that he agrees to this, Galactus agrees to this, but he gets amnesia and he can't really remember anything, and therefore that's why he ends up, I believe, I could be wrong, is why he ends up on Earth, because his original mission to keep Galactus away from living beings is gone. He has no memory of this promise to himself and the universe, and that's why he ends
his
up
home planet and wife.
Yeah, because he could have taken him anywhere, but he takes him to Earth. And that's how he was introduced into the Fantastic Four.
Right, and then of course in the movie it showed, Invisible Woman was the one who reminded him of his wife and why he was doing what he was doing.
I actually do not mind the second one so much. It's very, very light and fluffy. I still think the director, Tim Story, plays it almost sitcom-like or a children's film. But I absolutely love the Silver Surfer in that second one. It is a much better movie than the first one, but then they just ruin it with, how do you get Galactus on film? How do you do it without
exactly? They turned him into a giant entity, surrounded by a storm.
But
that was done terribly, and then they killed him off.
Well,
right at the end.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. You can't kill Galactus. At least I don't believe you could. What I think is, but if you had a guy with forced perspective, like the way they do with the Lord of the Rings movies, if you had a guy in a big silly suit like that, a big purple suit with the helmet and everything, walk up to Earth like Godzilla times 10, how do you not? How does that not laughable?
That is absolutely true. I understand. But still, to make him this just like Cloud who doesn't even speak, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a very hard choice to make. You want to get Silver Surfer on the big screen because he's actually an astonishing character, great to watch. But at the same time, you take that huge risk because Galactus has to be there in order to explain Silver Surfer's origin. You can't just toss Silver Surfer out there. But now that they've established Silver Surfer, do they really need to do the origin story again, or can they throw him into Guardians of the Galaxy? Or a Nova story, or
I know
Quasar,
or Miss Marvel.
What's that?
Right, honestly, or Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
We're calling her Captain Marvel from now on. Yeah, but at the same time, as it comes to Silver Surfer, I know they intended to make a movie for him with Fox after another Fantastic Four movie, but considering the terrible critical backlash for Rise of the Silver Surfer, it never went through.
Yeah, so it's also the fact that it cost more than the first one, but made less. So you made like $50 million less. They're probably like, you know what, we can't even do a new Fantastic Four. So Silver Surfer is definitely off the radar.
Yeah, and also, Lawrence Fishburne, I don't think he was the right voice for Silver Surfer. He was really dull.
Yeah, that was strange. It's not the voice I had in my head. They had Doug Jones do the physicality, the motion capture.
Yes.
Why not have Doug Jones do the voice? He's
might
an
as well.
actor.
He did the voice for Abe Sapien in Hellboy 2. In the first movie, it was David Hyde Pierce.
Right. They
Doug
almost sound
Jones
exactly the same.
cannot voice his own characters. Not fair.
Yeah, it's just too late. I don't know if we'll ever see Silver Surfer as a main character. He might show up in the Marvel Universe. Do they even own the rights, or does Fox still own Silver Surfer?
Uh, I don't know. Considering it was part of the Fantastic Four and the way they were distributing him in the second movie, they might still own the rights to him.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, the cartoon is a must see. It's very short lived, but it's a must see. You can burn through it probably in a couple days, unless you're really crazy. Burn through it one day. For the
Yeah.
comics, I say go and read the arc. I mean, you can always get like when they collect up the essentials, where it's all black and white and it's like the old comics. Those are fine, but for me, it
Mm-hmm.
was when Jim Starlin and Ron Mars were the main writers during my run, and then Ron Lim was one of the big artists, and of course, the artists would change back then like a lot. And it's kind of, but those are fantastic. You should really read those.
All right. I'll have to look into him whenever I get the chance. Oi.
And in fact,
But yes, no.
I think
like
it's
I feel like I am looking at a comic book just from the animation of this.
yeah. I think this
It,
is actually the Silver Surfer series I'm talking about is actually the only real long running series that he had, because I think he's just been doing miniseries ever since. I don't know why Silver Surfer just isn't very popular.
I don't get it either. I mean, there's like a lot of there's like so much to this character, and what he can do with his powers is, perfect too, especially for like, people who are a fan of surfing, like, and this whole sci-fi genre that like puts them together. It unites surfers and nerds.
Yeah.
They they can live in harmony and peace, and this is the bridge that connects them. Yeah, plus he's like on a giant surfboard floating around space. How awesome is that?
Last week we did the Fantastic Four, the 1994 Fantastic Four, and it was
Mm-hmm.
one of our most popular episodes ever. I'm really happy that you guys enjoyed it and downloaded it. And I wanted to say that I really thought the video game month, July, where we just talked about video game cartoons, was going to be successful. And for the most part, every single one of those episodes was a huge flop. In fact, there are probably our worst performing episodes ever. And I'm really surprised by that. And if there's a reason or what you think the reason is why they bombed, let us know, because I'm kind of confused on that one. I thought that with Pixels coming out, this is before Pixels actually came out and people thought it sucked, but I really thought they were going to be more popular. So this month we're kind of focusing on like comic book cartoons and whatnot.
Yes, I know what you mean. Honestly, oh, I do hope Silver Surfer does get a movie experience, but just as long as they'd probably have to reintroduce him through Fantastic Four again. Of course, they might end up having to sell the rights to Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't know that this cartoon actually had really good ratings. Not, top 5, but it did really well, and it was only canceled because this was part of the bankruptcy that Marvel was going through. That's the only reason this was canceled, is because of the bankruptcy. That sucks.
Oh yeah, that's right.
This is for people who don't know, I'm sure most people do. There was a point where Marvel Comics, the company that owned them, basically squandered everything. All the crazy profits they were making in the mid '90s, were thrown out the window. So this guy could, I think his name was Ron Perlman. He owned Revlon. He kept misusing all the money that his companies were bringing in, and they found themselves at record high sales in 1992, and then in 1996 going, oh fuck, we got nothing, and canceling almost every single. They had like 30 or 40 series out there, tons of miniseries, and they were down to like six monthlies, and then a couple randoms that would just like they would test out, and that was it. They came so close to being nothing. It's insane.
Oh wow.
All because of that jackass.
Son of a bitch.
J. Michael
He's one of-
Straczynski was the one that was hired to write the Silver Surfer movie. And do you know who that is?
Wait, who?
J. Michael Straczynski.
No.
He
Tell.
is the creator of Babylon 5. Now, he's done a lot of stuff.
Oh.
He did a really great comic in the late 90s, early 2000s called Rising Stars. I'm not 100% certain that he actually finished it. But he was hired. Fox does still own the rights to the Silver Surfer character. Damn it!
Mm.
There was a game for the NES. In fact, I think it was the first Marvel video game I had ever seen for the Nintendo. I think Punisher came out quickly after, but Silver Surfer for the NES is probably the most difficult but beautiful looking games I've ever played. It's torturous. It's so difficult.
I know. If you bump into the wall or the ceiling, you die.
There's so many games like that back then that they were just so insanely hard. Oh, that's right. He relaunched Thor. Thor was kind of falling apart in the comics, and he did a very good job rebooting it. He is the showrunner, I believe, core writer on Sense8, the Wachowski's brother TV show that's on Netflix right now. And
Oh wow.
I think he actually wrote for a bunch of the cartoons we've discussed before. I'm pretty sure he started off on He-Man. Yeah, he wrote for He-Man and She-Ra. And the real Ghostbusters.
Awesome.
Yeah, he wrote for the real Ghostbusters. Huh.
Oh dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's when he started doing like live action like Jake and the Fat Man, Murder, She Wrote, Walker, Texas Rangers. These are all not very good shows, at least in my opinion. Then going to Babylon 5, that's a huge difference. I heard Babylon 5 is coming back.
Oh dang. Oh man, people are gonna be going crazy for that.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot.
Oh, now
there is a TV show that he did right after the whole Babylon. Babylon 5 had like a spin-off movie and a spin-off series, but when that all wrapped up, he did a show for Showtime called Jeremiah, which is based on a comic book, and it had Luke Perry, Sean Astin, and Malcolm Jamal Warner. And it was about a post-apocalyptic future where there was a disease going around killing anybody who had hit puberty. And then you find yourself fast-forwarding, I think, 15 years, and all of these children now are trying to run the world. They have no science, they have no technology, they have barely any education. It's a very, very good series, but it only lasted 2 years.
damn.
Yeah, if you find
Just 2 years?
Yeah, I believe it's actually on Hulu, and the complete series is out there on DVD. Yeah, it was 2 seasons. There was a huge problem, I believe, with the second season. They were having production delays. Showtime wouldn't make up their mind about a budget, and by the time the third season was up for being greenlit, that Showtime had just moved on, which is a shame because I believe they end up on I think they end on a cliffhanger, which is the worst way to end a series ever.
Wow. Yeah, no, I do remember hearing a lot about Babylon 5. I'd see like a commercial for it almost every TV station.
Yeah, the first season's okay. The captain is different. It's when they brought in Bruce Boxleitner as the captain in the second season when the show really started to take off.
Damn.
So,
yeah.
I'm not watching the cartoon right now. Is it over?
It is over.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So yeah, this is a definite must-see. I actually would recommend this more than X-Men, which sounds insane. It sounds insane, I know. I really enjoy the X-Men, but the Silver Surfer, the fact that it's such a streamlined, it looks just like the comics, I actually enjoyed this a little bit more.
Damn, dude. I know. I think it is fun, and plus it does go into the whole outer space, perspective of the Marvel Universe.
Uh-huh.
It's just a shame that it only got 13 episodes?
Right. So I guess that is it for us here at Back in Toons. And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
I really hope this does become a movie, and you can bring back Doug Jones and just put him back in the suit.
Yeah.
Plus, he did. He had the body. He had the body language perfectly. He. Well, I mean, as long as it's his voice. He does have a great voice. He proved that when he did Abe Sapien.
Right.
In the Hellboy 2. He can act. So let him do it.
They put the balls all over your body, right? They attach those little motion detection balls all over your body when you do the motion capture, correct? Am I wrong?
Sorry, say that again?
When they do motion capture, they attach all these little detectors all over you. They look like little white balls.
Yes, and he was actually in an actual suit that was all gray.
Yeah.
But when the silver coloring effect came on, that's when it was computer generated.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a joke about balls on his face, but it's ruined now because I don't know anything about anything. I was raised by wolves.
Oh wow! You weren't raised by wolves. You were raised by coyotes,
Oh,
which are like dog crack.
All right, everybody, that is it for us here at Back in Toons. And check us out on Facebook. We have a page set up for all of our episodes, and we're doing some flashback episodes here and there, so you'll catch new episodes mixed in with the old episodes. Plus, we're starting to gather up like stuff that's going on in the animation world, the news, and we like to share that with you. And if you have any comments, suggestions for cartoons we should discuss, let us know. We have finished the next quarter schedule, and so those are set until January 1st. So we'll any other cartoons you suggest, we'll start doing during the new year.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I can do that.
All right, everybody. Thank you, and good luck with everything in the world.
Be excellent to each other.
All right, good night, everybody.